good evening or good morning wherever you are. So today we are again here with our second edition of this year's hug. Uh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, second edition of this year's hug. Sorry, I've done so many now and I can't recall. So yeah, uh, we did I think another one a couple of months back where we did on HubSpot reporting. Anybody here who is attending the hug for the first time today? A raised hand would be useful. In your you can use your okay, yeah, you can use the HubSpot uh, Zoom link. Okay, a few of you. All right. Okay, so let's go right from there. So a HubSpot user group, as it is called over here, HubSpot user group, is basically a community of people who are using HubSpot for various reasons: marketing, sales, customer support, technically, as a developer, it could be anything. But yeah, it's a platform only for the HubSpot users who've been doing something or the other. And the idea of a community, as in general with any other community or technology, is that we get together and we see what are we doing, what can we do better, what can we learn from others. That is always the objective of any community. So similarly, Hug, as the HubSpot user group, the community here is to I mean, in India, it's still small, but yeah, the idea is to learn from each other and grow together, right? If you may have seen from HubSpot's branding also somewhere, it's about growing better, and that is the idea, with which we run these events once in 3 months. The idea is that whatever we learn, we want to share with others, and get others who have learned something to get on a platform and share and exchange ideas and grow better and grow together, right? So that's the idea. With that, I may share, the today's topic is HubSpot integrations. uh, what a lot of things we have heard in the recent past. That's I mean, the idea of the choosing the topic is generally how we see what the market is moving towards, what are the questions that are coming around, what are the things people are asking, not just to us but also in the HubSpot global community. And integrations is one, I will say, one hot topic that is there around since last 7-8 months, maybe a year, you could say. uh, on and off it's coming back, and people are asking how to do it better, even how to look at it, how to approach it. And the whole point is that what can we do to make our lives easier when we are doing a integration of some other tool with HubSpot. Yeah. uh, the idea is that when you're thinking about an integration, the idea is generally that you're trying to make your life simpler using probably some automation that you using, or you may be doing some things in a certain way, and then there is HubSpot, and then you're trying to see that, okay, what can I do to get more value out of HubSpot. That is the overall intent of any integration that we are trying to do. When it comes to a business use case, what is the more what is the way to look at HubSpot where you can extract more value from the tool, right? So whether you are a developer or a salesperson, marketing person, or even a designer, whoever you are, basically you will see that, okay, I can integrate HubSpot with my tool. And how can it make my life easier? Can it make it more simple? Can it something automate something? Can it run anything faster? Can I do better reporting out of this? What kind of things that I can do eventually either should be a gain creator or a pain reliever for my working, day-to-day working, right? So we've seen integrations, people coming up with all sorts of integration requests. People come up with, I want SMSs, I want WhatsApp, I want Viber, I want my finance platform, I want the accounting software, my ERP, even complex ERP tools people are integrating. So whatever people are trying to do, eventually they're trying to get around that, okay, how can I make my business and my day-to-day life simpler? That's the whole objective of doing any HubSpot integration, right? But when we started looking at it last few months, the kind of requests that coming in, and then the kind of questions associated with it, a lot of things, we saw that, okay, there is a definite need to talk about this because the awareness is not really there. uh, the awareness at when should I be looking at a HubSpot integration, why should I be looking at it, what do I need to do when I figure out that, okay, now I need an integration, right? So those kinds of questions, we've been seeing coming on and off, and that is, that probably that's where we began that, okay, maybe we need to talk about all this, but then maybe we can talk about it in a fashion that uh, various use cases can be spoken about, as well as, what various people do, how various people use the, HubSpot integration. We can, discuss those. So that was the, earlier, I mean, initial intent of trying to understand the integrations, and that's how, we thought that, okay, let's get on the, next hugs, and talk more about this, at least get at an awareness level. And based on, obviously, whatever, the feedback comes, or based on what people see they need, uh, basically the idea is that from here on we will, try to go to the more detailed, or more, so to say, expert or professional level topics going forward. Yeah. um, Quick question, how many of you are a developer here? uh, Varsha, you can, put your hand down. I guess it's still there. uh, Developers, one, two, three. Okay. Okay. Good. So yeah, good. Thanks for that, because there will be, some technical aspects that we are going to talk about. So thought, it's good to know that, if there are any developers around, and what is it that we can, maybe get into some technicals also. So that was the, just a quick roundup on that. Okay. Good. Any expectations or anything that you have come up with today, that, okay, this is what I'm going to learn today, or anything, or any business use case that you already have in your mind, that you thought, okay, maybe let's get on this event and see what do we learn today? Anything anybody wants to share before even we, get into it? You can also post in the chat if you want, if you don't want to, use the mic. um, all right. Okay. So while, I'll wait if somebody posts on that, while we can continue. um, so I've already shared why are we, talking about this. Let's quickly get into, why, or when is a need for an integration. Okay. uh, so essentially, a business runs, multiple teams run a business, and a business runs with various aspects coming together, right? There is marketing, there is sales, there is finance, there is, let's say, maybe more aspects of the business, right? I mean, essentially that's how you look at it. But then you will say, okay, there is a product, or there is a service that I'm offering, or, I want to ensure that my CRM is there, or I want to ensure my ERP is, HR, two systems are integrated. I want to manage all my, customer birthdays within HubSpot, and I want to send them, various stuff, but that data lies somewhere else, right? I can say that, that I'm not storing, birthdays on HubSpot, but I'm, storing on my ERP, right? So uh, I think what we can look at it is, the reason you may see that, okay, I'm using HubSpot as my, let's say, main communication tool, right? I may be using it for emailing, I may be, tracking social media, I may be doing all of those things. And there is another system, which gets me more data, which gets me more information, uh, like a, like something, like I said, even this birthday thing, small element, but that may be stored somewhere else, right? Or you may say, the purchase history of my customer is stored in another solution that I'm using. It may be a Shopify else, all of those things may be there. So the point is that, where do you need the data to be coming from, or what do you want to achieve if you get that data into your integration, is how you will, start thinking about that, okay, this is where I need an integration of another tool, right? uh, you may say that, okay, I have a customer, or I have 1000 customers, and there are various things that are stored on my payment gateway, right? You may be using, let's say, something that people pay online, right? Even let's say you sell on Amazon, right? Even if you're selling books on Amazon, for example, you will be getting some information, right? And all that information is stored with at that platform, but you're using another platform to do your own marketing. So right, so how do you do that, right? So you need that data. Either you can keep downloading stuff from one tool to another and keep doing it manually, but obviously, with everything you do manually, there is time needed, there is bandwidth needed, then there is you need to ensure that with anything you're doing manually, something does not get messed up, right? With while you may say that no, it's just a copy paste from one place to another. Still there are chances you may enter while copying something at the rate gmail.com, and then you miss the last letter, right? And it goes and gets pasted as gmail.co, right? You will not realize it. You will go ahead and you will do the send the email, and then you will see the email has bounced, right? What happened there? You were just trying to do a copy paste, but still the information got lost in the process, right? So the integration, any integration that we are trying to do is always about data integrity, and using that data to be able to do more things that you were eventually, that is your initial purpose of HubSpot. You were trying to do marketing, or you were trying to do sales or customer support, tickets, right? Anything that you were trying to do. But if your data is not sane, eventually you will not be able to achieve your objective of whatever you were trying to do with HubSpot. So that is the idea of getting into the HubSpot integration. Yeah. So that's where we got into it, that okay, this is the need of the market. Everybody uses various tools. It's not just one tool that you're using. So everybody needs various tools, and eventually you end up saying that, okay, I need these 5 tools to run my business, and all of them should be talking to each other. And that is where you will see that, okay, no, I have a need of integrating all of them. So at least there is one place where I get everything at, if I want to see. And that is where the CRM comes into picture. Not just HubSpot, any CRM comes into picture, right? You want to see everything coming into one place so that you're able to do various things. Yeah. That's the idea of an integration. Now, probably you would have now started thinking, okay, what are the tools I use in my day-to-day life, and can I integrate them into HubSpot? uh, right? And then obviously the next question will come that, okay, now how do I figure out which integration to use? Or uh, I'm sure most of you are aware already, if you're a HubSpot user, that HubSpot has a ecosystem, the marketplace, where you can find out what integrations are available, right? So the moment you identify, let's say I'm using Shopify to sell my books on my own website. Yeah. And I want to see that, okay, now I'm using Shopify, but I also want HubSpot as a CRM. Yeah. So then you will say that, okay, I need all this people who are buying my books. I want this data to come into my CRM. So you will go and look out for a Shopify integration, for example. Yeah. Probably you will go, once you will Google, you will end up with the HubSpot marketplace link. That is where you will find, okay, yeah, there is an integration for Shopify. Now that is the first step where you will generally begin. But in some cases it is possible that such an integration does not exist. Yeah, it is also possible. In some cases you will Google and you will get the first link, and you will go and try it out, and it will work for you instantaneously, probably if you're lucky. But a lot of cases you will end up saying that, okay, this is there, it exists, but when I integrate it, it still doesn't work. Yeah, that is also a possibility. So that is I'm and we're going to talk about all of this. But yeah, that's probably where you start off. You figure out, okay, now you have a need, you have these two systems, just go and Google for whatever tool plus HubSpot integration. That's what you have to do, whatever tool it is, and then see what comes up. Generally you will see something come up in the HubSpot marketplace. Most of the popular integrations or tools are available in the marketplace, either done by HubSpot themselves or by somebody somebody like a partner, uh, like us. Somebody would have done. If not, then that's where the difficult part starts, right? If that is not there off the shelf, you can't find anything. And that is where we'll just come into more details on how to go about that, if that is not there. uh, but in general, if you find and you don't know that whether this will work or not work, you can definitely ask for help. So, obviously, if you have a HubSpot account, then you will also be knowing that there is a chat support option over there, and you can reach out to HubSpot and figure out that, okay, whether and ask them, whether this integration needs technical help or not. You can even look at a lot of documentation that generally, all the integrations will list as part of their listing page. They will usually have to put some screenshots or even videos to how to use this integration, and based on that you will generally figure out what is needed, and can you do it on your own or not. Yeah. uh, but then that's where you get help also if needed from HubSpot. Yeah. Generally you will be able to, if it is available in the marketplace, generally you will be able to do it on your own. Yeah. Once you figure that okay, it doesn't work, that is when you start reaching out for help. And again, the first place of help is obviously HubSpot itself. Like I said, you can reach out to them, you can reach out to your cam, or you can reach out on chat. All of that you can do. And then if that doesn't solve your problem, there is additionally you can even go out and reach out to HubSpot technical support. That is also a possibility. Um, Usually they will charge for that, but yes, the idea is that they can then help you with anything, anything that you have in mind, any questions, uh, anything to do with whether this will work or not work, or maybe they can even tell you, this integration has used by so many people, but there is one catch, or there is one problem that happens, or you should be prepared with all of this, right? Those kinds of simple questions you can ask your HubSpot technical consultant as well. uh, this is all assuming that you don't have any technical team with yourself and or with a partner, right? HubSpot partner, that is the assumption here, right? If you have a partner or if you have a technical team, generally they will figure out a way. But the idea to here to share all of this information is if you don't know what to do, and you're not a technical person, and you don't know how to look at it, even how to approach it. Yeah. So that's where um, that's a small summary. If you're a non-technical person, how do you go about it? Yeah. So that's where you begin. Some of the integrations will work out of the box. Let's say you connect Zoom, for example, right? It will take 5-10 minutes, and you will be able to set it up within 10 minutes, and boom, you just set it up, you set up your calendar, you set up your Zoom invite, and everything is working perfectly. Within 15 minutes you can schedule, you can get your calendar and meetings scheduled automatically, Zoom links sent automatically, all of that happens. Right. So that is where it is easy. Yeah. We are now going to switch into a different mode. I mean, right now, I'm going to invite Dheeraj from my team. Dheeraj is the CTO at Nisway, and he basically heads or has done lots of integrations. Yeah. So first of all, Dheeraj, if you can just wave around.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, you are here. Okay. Hi. So the idea is that we are going to, ask Dheeraj a lot of questions around how to approach integrations and get a knowledge of how, whether we are a technical person or a non-technical person, how should we look at it, right? So, uh, yeah, we will, I'll be asking him some questions. Hopefully, that should answer a lot of your questions. But obviously, feel free to put your questions in chat. If you have a follow-up question, you can raise your hand. And obviously, at the end, also we will, just leave a few minutes for you to, ask any follow-up questions that you have. Yeah. Uh, so let's begin then. These is all set. Good to
Yeah,
go. To share anything beforehand, or I should just jump into the questions?
yeah, ask me anything. Let's have this as AMA.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. So let's get started. Uh, so how do we look at it? I mean, so most of the questions, a lot of questions that have come in the last few months from customers. Let's just go from there. Basically, first question is always, can this XYZ system be integrated with HubSpot? That's how anybody will come and ask us. So how do
Yeah.
you, as basic as that, how do you answer that?
Okay, so first we will have to look at what an integration is, right? So an integration is a communication between two systems. So let me just keep it very general example with very generic examples so that everybody will understand, because I saw that very few people are developer here.
Okay.
So so suppose you have two houses, okay, and both owners wants to talk to each other, right? So what you will look out for, that where there is a door or window or not in any house, right? Where the person can come out and talk to another person, right? And the second thing you will figure out that whether there is a common language between both people or not. The one person is speaking suppose Tamil, or second person is speaking Hindi, then there is no conversation, right? Both are on different level, so no understanding there, right? So window means there is an API gateway or not. API is application programming interface, where the system has some way to connect to another system or not. And language being whether both APIs are implemented in the same format or not, right? So this is what you look out for first. If you want to integrate two systems, you just look out that whether there are APIs available where I can pull data from one system and push data into another system, or vice versa. So this is the first thing you will look for. If there is no API, then of course it won't be able to integrate to any system.
So this API, okay, so let's just take this analogy just to help me understand, maybe at a dumbed down version. Now, if I am, staying at some place and you are staying next door, and there is no way to, let's say, build a window or a door, if I pick up my mobile phone, I can still communicate with you. So does the mobile phone become you can say the gateway for that?
Yeah, exactly. So there is some way to talk to, right? Mobile phone, that means that someone has created a window for you. Right? It's not like your house doesn't have a window, but someone has created a window for you. So there should be a mode of communication, right?
Okay. So it could be like independent also.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're saying. It may not be necessary within these two houses. Somebody third person can come and say, "Here is your, integration system," and you
I have all the communication protocol of this term and all the communication protocol of third party. So let's talk to. Then you can communicate via me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now. I think I can use that in some sales conversations probably later on. That helps. Okay. So is there I mean, how do you know that if there is any limitation when it comes to integrating, these two houses, and if there is any?
Yeah. So when we talk about that there is a limitation in API or not, with the limitation in terms of what, right? So whether all the API documentation is there or not, whether everything which data points we want is been given by the system or not, those kind of the limitations. So limitations will always come in purview of that what is your requirement, what do you want to do, right? So suppose I want to send SMS from one system to another system, right? And one system doesn't have the phone numbers at all, so I can't send the SMS. That's like it's not going to happen, right? Because the other system wants phone number to send to SMS, right? So if the phone number is not there, then there is no SMS, right? So integration will not happen. So this is what we have to look out, that what is our goal to achieve from integration. And when we are talking about the goals, what kind of data points from one system we require and what kind of data points the second system will ask, and both things are matching or not. If both things are not matching, then there is no integration.
Okay. So how will you know whether both things are matching? I mean, as a layman, can I find that out, or is that something only a technical person can do?
Yes and no. Okay. Yes, in the sense of that you need to know your business requirements first. As a layman, you need to know that, okay, what kind of business requirements I have. And then you come to a developer or come to a person who understands API documentation, and then find out that whether this is possible or not, right? So because if you directly ask that, so suppose I am a developer and you come and then ask that, okay, is there an integration possible between these two systems, right? Then I'll ask your question, what is your use case? What do you want to integrate, right? Suppose I create a very big house and nobody can live in there, so then there is no use of that house, right? So I'll ask whether do you want, I mean, what do you want with this house? Who is going to live in there, and what kind of capacity do you want there in this house?
Okay.
And now we will figure out that whether that is possible in the one system and another system or not.
Okay, so I mean, just again for my simplicity, I'm just trying to say that in this house, how many ACs am I going to put, so you can decide how much kilowatt the power should be.
Power
Like
should be.
how many people are there, so how much water tank should be. Right? Those kinds of questions I should be able to answer.
Oh. Whether there is supply for that kind of water or not, there's that kind of electricity or not.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And similarly, like for internet, I can decide how many users are going to use it. So what kind of bandwidth do I need, right? Similar, those kinds of questions.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I go to a technical person, and they can tell me, yes, this is possible, or you need more information or something like that.
That also depends on whether the system has well-documented API documentation or not. If that system doesn't have any API documentation, sometimes what happens that a system has API, but they do not document it into public purview, right? They will give you, when you will ask, they will give you the documentation.
Yeah.
So in that case, the developer also can't do anything. They will have to go to that system and ask that, okay, give me the API documentation so that I will figure it out that whether this is possible or not.
Okay. So if there is no documentation, then we can't build an integration, you're saying, whether public or private, but if there is no documentation, it's unlikely.
There should be API. Documentation is not the, necessity, but documentation is just to understand without talking to that system, right? But there should be API.
Okay. So API is necessary. It's mandatory. The documentation is a good to have, or
good to have.
Good to have.
It will ease your process.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So anything, then how do we, figure out that, okay, now that you have these systems, so now what happens? Let's say I have come to you and I am asking you, Dheeraj, please build me an integration of HubSpot, with, let's say, this next house. So what will you do? I mean, how will you approach it? How do you develop?
Okay, so first of all, I would like some information whether how this application will be used, this integration will be used, what kind of data flow it will be, like which data from what system will go to the another system, and whether it will be a two-way sync or one-way sync. So sometimes you want, like do not want to just speak, just also want to listen, right? Yeah. So that is like two-way sync, right? So both systems should be talking to each other, or only one system should be talking to the another system. That information we will need, and then we will need that, okay, when there will be a conflict, then which system will have the precedence. So that the whole basically data mapping, that okay, I want email address from one system to go to the email address of the second system.
Okay.
But if the first system has the wrong email address, the second system will have the right email address. Second system's email address will have the precedence, okay? Because that is our primary tool. For example, suppose you have, as you gave the ERP system, and we have a list of clients in ERP, and we are doing our marketing campaigns on HubSpot.
Okay.
And ERP has all the updated email addresses.
Okay.
Right? Because whenever someone talk to a client, and if their email has changed, they just change into ERP.
Okay.
So when HubSpot will talk to ERP, and HubSpot also has the same, another email address for the same customer, but ERP has some other email address, the ERP's email address will have the precedence, and it will just replace the HubSpot's email address, because that is the latest, right? Okay. So these kind of things you need to figure out, that what will be your data mapping strategy, and which data will have the precedence if it is a two-way sync. If it is a one-way sync, then only data coming from ERP to HubSpot, then there is no issue, right? You will just pick the data and then update it to HubSpot, right?
Okay.
So those things, these are the main things you need to figure out. And then there comes that what kind of data flow you are expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, we have 100 people to live in a house. I can't build a 2 BHK, right?
Yeah.
You will have, that has to be like a colony, right? So that you need to figure out that, you know, what kind of data flow it will have, how many requests the middleware expecting, right? From one system to another system. And in that case, there will come something like API limits, right? So every system has some API limits. For example, when one system talks to another system, they just put a limit that, okay, you can't push this much data in this much time, okay? Because our system is not built for that, right? So they will put some limit into it. Then you will have to see that whether your requirement is falling under that limit or not, right? So these kind of things you need to pay attention to.
Okay. So I'll just, go back there. You mentioned something called a middleware. What is that, if you can tell?
Yeah, okay. So suppose, for example, when we were talking about the two people are talking through the window, one person is speaking English and second person is speaking Tamil, right?
Okay.
If we put an interpreter in between, okay, who will just understand what the first person is saying and tell the second person that, okay, this was his question, and the second person will tell in the Hindi that, okay, this is my answer, and the interpreter will give the answer back to the other first person, right? So that interpreter will be the middleware. It's a kind of software which connect to system, but it may or may not have its own interface, right? So it just talk to between systems.
So when you say it may or may not have an interface of itself, so it is not necessary that I need to log into something to.
No, you don't need.
Right. Okay. Okay. So for me, I mean, there is basically a black box in between, you can say, right?
Yeah, exactly. So your middleware can talk to the first system, your middleware can talk to the second system, but you don't need to get into the middleware thing that, okay, what is the data passing? Because the data will eventually come from one system and you will be able to see in the second system.
Okay. And this is probably what you are building when you are developing an integration. That's what you meant, right?
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense now. So basically you're saying that two systems cannot talk on their own because they will generally be in different languages, and which is where you build a middleware. Got it. Okay.
So if I'll give you one small example of why they do not talk to each other. For example, suppose Salesforce, in Salesforce, the name is name, right? The object, the property name is name. Okay. But in HubSpot, there is no field called name, right? The field is called first name and last name.
Yes.
Now you need someone to interpret that, okay, name is first name plus last name.
Okay.
So that's why you need a middleware in between.
Yeah, that definitely helps now. What is this middleware job basically? What are they trying to do? So when you are building this, middleware, I mean, what kind of skills do you need? I mean, as a technical person, and maybe what skills you can even elaborate, non-technically, what skills are needed when building an integration?
So non-technically, you need to have your business goals clear, that and integration goals clear. That what do you want?
Like a business analyst skills.
Business analyst, skills can come in and then see that, okay, I want this data there so that I can, generate some intelligence around it, or make some sense of the data. So that definitely helps to have business intelligence or business goals clear. So for that, you will need some analyst kind of experience.
Okay.
And then when it comes to technical part, you will need a backend developer for sure, because any integration cannot be developed on front end. So you don't want to expose that how this system is communicating to the other system. right? Because there are some API keys or some keys, right? You don't want to expose that on the front end.
Correct.
So you need a backend server who will talk to both the systems. So you need a backend developer for that. It can be of any language. That's not an issue because all of the modern languages are capable of doing so. Okay. So be it Node.js, PHP, Python, any language it can be. But yeah, and the developer should be understanding few of the things which I'll just list out or just go through. They should be understanding APIs, what an API is, and how to consume an API and how to transform an API. They should be understanding some protocols such as OAuth, which is like, which gives you permission to connect to a system. So they should be understanding how it works. So yeah, so these few things, backend programming and protocols of authentication and authorization, and the basic API understanding. Most of the systems are running on REST right now. So you need to have some REST API understanding. It will work. I mean, most of the time it will, 90% of time it will work.
Okay. So REST, what you said, REST is basically a standard of APIs.
Yeah, a standard of API.
Okay. Okay. And there could be other also.
Yeah, there can be. So there can be a lot of other APIs.
Okay, but you're saying 90% of the tools today now have REST.
Yeah, REST.
Okay. So at least 90% of my integration is easy.
Yeah.
At least I could say that. Okay. And in non-technicals, you said a business analyst. Is that enough, or do you still need somebody else also?
So it depends on the business goal clearly. That
okay. So let's say you're saying, what you mean, just to interpret what you're saying, it depends on the business goal. If I'm doing a finance app, probably the finance guy should be involved.
Exactly.
Understood.
Yeah. So if you're doing a marketing integration, then marketers should be there to tell you that what kind of data they want, right?
Okay. So we need a subject matter expert and a business analyst who can break down the problem. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that team good enough now? I have business analyst, I have a subject matter expert, I have a backend developer who knows API and OAuth, etc. Is that good enough a team to build? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. And then okay, then I mean we can go into more details, but yeah, maybe it can become a lot technical. So let's skip that part. Okay, so that is that. What else would we want to know? So then what are the things, when we are, when, let's say, now you have kickstarted, right? Now you have kickstarted this integration project. Now, what are the things that can go wrong, that can basically get you off track?
Yeah. So things which can go wrong can be like, first of all, you are not clear on your business goal. What kind of data you are expecting you are not getting. You read the documentation wrong. So what the data format you are expecting is not the same, right?
Okay.
So that can go wrong. The data flow you planned for is too much to handle. So, or, for example, suppose you have planned that, okay, I'll have 200,000 requests in a day, right? Okay. And on the first day you get 2 million requests. So your system might be overburdened. So that can go wrong. So basically data mapping, data flow, and planning, basic business planning can go.
Okay. So when you said, on the first day you were expecting 200, 200,000, whatever, the data points or, things to go from one system to another. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up doing 2 million. So is there a way to control that? I mean, can you control that? Okay, on each day it should do only this much, or let me put it another way also. Sometimes what will happen is when we will build an integration or when we will connect our system, initially there will be a lot of, backlog. I already have, 2 million contacts in my system. And the moment I connect this pipe, everything starts flowing. Yeah. So is there a way to, think about that and control it during my development phase, or no?
No. So you have to plan for that. So that in technical terms, we say that, okay, there will be a current integration so that whatever data comes real time should go through to the another system. And there will be a history integration so that historical data will go once, right, to another system. So you have to plan for that. That, okay, initially I will have this much data to pass. Okay. And after that, our system expects this much data.
Okay. So that can come from, let's say I am running a marketing campaign and I generate, 5,000 leads a day. So I can say that, okay, ongoing it will be 5,000, but first time it will be 2 million. That's something what.
Yeah. And the developer can work around it.
Okay.
There will be no surprise in that case, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, this is where the API limits will come into picture or no?
Yeah. So API limit will come into picture for sure this way. For example, HubSpot's API limit is 250,000 per day. Right? In some packages, but in enterprise packages, there is no limit. So that will be, so suppose you want 5 million data to move from one system to HubSpot in a day, that won't be possible, right? If you don't have an enterprise solution, enterprise package.
Understood. Okay.
So that is one case. There is also some limitations on when you say that rate limit, it's like in 10 seconds, you can pass this much data. The frequency of API calling. So that you will also have to factor out, right? That, okay, so suppose I want to pass 1 million data, and my system is not allowing 10 per second, more than 10 per second.
Okay.
Right. So I'll have to calculate that, okay, this much time it will, at least this much time it will take.
Okay. So these are two different things. I mean, I may have lesser number, but still in 10 seconds, it will only pass one or one.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there, but I can buy more, right? If I'm not wrong, I can buy more.
That depends on the package, HubSpot package. Yeah. So basically, so it's also depends on other systems package also, that what kind of API limit they are providing, right?
Right.
So you can always request that, okay, just increase my rate limits or something.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, while all of this is workable, basically you're saying it's good to know. Otherwise, you will end up in a mess. Okay. Understood. Good. Okay. So then now, okay. So now we've, talked about what skills are needed, how will we go about it, what some of the things that could, go wrong. Also, is there anything, around that, what makes a, when you've done so many integrations. So when in what case would you say that, okay, this integration is complex, let's say?
Complex.
Is there something like that?
Yeah. So I can give you one example and clearly that what integration I'm talking about. So we had this integration with Wine Directory for WineDirect for one of our client, and the biggest issue was that WineDirect have the API on SOAP services. It's like, older technology.
Like what you mentioned, not REST.
Not REST, yeah.
Okay, the other 10%. Okay.
Yeah, other 10%, and also their system is not that robust. So after 10,000 requests, it may fail. It's like that. Okay. So it may fail in the sense it will stop responding. So when you will.
It will stop altogether.
Stop altogether the responding, right? When you will have to wait for some time to start respond. It will start responding again. Okay. So in that case, what you need to do that, okay, you can't sit and then check that whether this data passed or not, that data passed or not.
Right.
Okay. Every moment. Otherwise, that's just defeat the purpose of having an integration. So what we had to do that we had to come up with lot of checks and balances that what will happen if this will fail, or what will happen if that will fail. So a lot of fail-safe mechanism we will have to implement there, so that the daily data is passed. We make sure that daily data limit is passed from one system to another system. So that was quite challenging. Also, the historical data, merging was quite challenging in that case, because when you are getting not more than 15,000 data from a day, and you need to pass a million of data, it will take some time, right? So that took some challenges, but yeah, but it was done end of the day.
Okay. I just remembered, as a kid, we were told that computers, man versus computer difference. Man gets tired, computer does not get tired. But what you're saying, after 10,000 requests, this got tired and stopped.
So
And
that's the system flow. I mean, you won't get this every day in every system, but of course there is some system which is a small system, not a very enterprise solution, but then in that case these things are there. So any integration you are creating, you will have to just make sure that all fail safe things are incorporated, and you have all the corner cases covered, right?
Okay. Okay. Cool. There is a question on the chat, but I think we'll come back to it in a bit. Let's go. I mean, we're in the flow of running this project. Okay, so let us take us to execution and then come back to the questions. Meanwhile,
Let's
please
deploy it first.
Yeah, feel free to keep putting questions if you have. So yeah, I mean, now we have now we have looked at what can go wrong, what are the things, what makes a project complex or not, complicated as well. So what are there any moving parts, in an integration? Like, is it like simply you plug in and you prepare your platforms and you start doing it, or is there a are there things that I mean, do you have like a scope of work defined and it can only work in that manner, or you can you can work around your way while an integration is developed or after it is developed, let's say?
Yeah, of course, if you're developing any system, and it needs to be flexible enough to be if you want to make any changes, it should be allowed, right? For example, so we can take the example of Deepak said that in my festive season the lead flow has increased more than the API limit, what can we do, right? So in that case, your system should be flexible enough to incorporate more requests if there is a demand for that. But just the thing that you should be knowing that okay, there will be a higher demand, right? So you can prepare for it, right? So so that's I mean, system set should be the flexible enough, and it should be flexible enough to incorporate all the data mappings, which is, so suppose you started with 10 data points that okay, I want these data points only into this system, right? And then while creating the integration, you come up with okay, this 10 and I want these 5 more data points to go from one system to another, because we thought that our business will be better integrated if we'll have these more 5 data points, right? The system should be flexible enough to incorporate that. Your system should be well designed enough to respect any API limits. So for example, if HubSpot has a limit of 100 requests per 10 seconds, your system should be designed in a way to respect that limit. Otherwise your request will start falling, and then someone pointed out that okay, data is not integrating because your requests are failing, right? So that needs to be taken care of.
Okay. And so it could also be, so okay, let's just let me go back one step. So let's say again, now that you've brought up Deepak's question, so let's say I am designing a system and I have looked at, let's say, like I was saying, I get 5,000 leads a day. So when you're designing that system, will you look at 5,000 a day, or how will you look at it, that how should it should work? Because I'm guessing that will increase my cost also, for,
yeah, of course.
for a bigger system, right? So how do I look at it? Yeah.
So what kind of server you are choosing depends on what kind of request you are going to expect, right? So suppose I have chosen a server for example, suppose DigitalOcean, right? It's a hosting platform.
Okay.
Most of them are knowing. So if I'm choosing a basic instance there, which is like 1 GB RAM and 25 GB hard disk, my system can work in that, right?
Okay.
But it will not be able to serve more than more than 200 concurrent requests.
Okay.
Yeah. So to serve more than that, you need to have a bigger server. You need to replicate a server very easily so that you will have capacity of hosting more than that request, right? What kind of request you are going to expect.
Okay.
So that you need to figure it out.
So it's more at an infra level rather than at
infrastructure level.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's more of the infrastructure. Okay. And then obviously the platform limits, API limits, and all those things.
Yeah.
Okay. Deepak, does that answer your question, or we went off track, or we answered something else?
It did. One thing probably would be, which is left out, is will this be like quick enough, or do I need to keep this in mind as a campaign manager and then reach out to my tech before, like, in advance, well in advance, so that they can do all of this, or all this because it's just infra, so they can buy more and ho jayega. Or will there be any changes in the API that or code itself that it will take some time, so I'll need to inform them in advance that there's a festive campaign, I need API limit increased, etc., etc.
So to answer that question, I think we all agree that as soon as we get the threat, it will be very useful to solve that, right? As soon as we will be the developer will be notified, they can plan for it, right? For example, suppose I need to change my server space from one server to another server to bigger server, right? It will need some downtime, right? So you will have to plan for that downtime. Or it can be of 5 minutes and 10 minutes or 1 hour, depending on the how big your server is, right? So you need to plan for that. Whatever changes you want, that needs to be planned out. It's not like you come up 9 a.m. My sale is going to start 9:01 a.m. I am expecting that, okay, this is going to be too much load, change it, right? So that won't be possible now, right? Because anyway you will have to plan for downtime, and then we are expecting this much traffic. The system may or may not handle that, but if you start planning for the downtime, that moment the system will stop working, right? So it's like you are switching off by yourself rather than you are testing out the system. So you need to plan.
So you can have these systems in place that, let's say, if let's say 70%, if I'm hitting 70% of my capacity, a notification should go.
Exactly. Yeah. Triggers should
right?
come, and
I
then I should be know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How much resources I am. So on the daily level, on the daily basis, you can just check that whether your systems are in healthy state or not. If there is any any resource which is being hogged by any process, you need to take care of that. Those things are basic checks, and it should be into place.
Okay. Yeah, I remember I think almost a decade back, when Open magazine broke the telecom story, their telecom scandal, their website went down, I think, in a few hours.
Yeah.
Right, because they didn't expect so much traffic to come on that story, and it went down.
IRCTC is the biggest example for that.
Right.
You can think of, right?
Yeah, it goes down. Yeah, it used to go down so many times. I think now it's fine. Yeah. Siddharth has posted a question. I don't even know what those things are. Maybe Dheeraj, you can take up. What does AutoRabbit and Dell Boomi do? I have no clue what those are, so maybe you can.
So yeah, those are ETL platforms where you can just kind of create all these integrations by drag and drop, but the connector should be there. So, and these are very enterprise, high level enterprise ETL. So the cost is off the chart.
Okay.
So that you needs to.
Okay. But do you, I mean, in those things, in those platforms, it is already like they're, because you said they are enterprise platforms, so they're already looking at hundreds of thousands of, data points
Yeah,
being in every second, things like that.
Not exactly data point, that depends on the system. Again, data point depends on the system. If I'm connecting HubSpot to another platform, I need to look at the data point HubSpot is providing, right? So if the system's connector is there, so they might have defined all the data points, but if the system connector is not there, they might not have.
Okay, makes sense. So that does answer. Okay, he says thank you. Okay. Okay, good. I guess we've covered mostly, what we were thinking. Now just going back from where we started, right? So we discussed what team, what scale, how to go about it, and now that we have looked at what things can go wrong, let's say we've done or you've implemented a good integration. Now, what happens after? Are there any things to take care of? Once this is completed, and is there any sort of maintenance to it? Is there any?
Yeah, so basic maintenance is always there, whether you are running a website or middleware. You should be aware of that when your system is going to crash, right? You should be aware of that, what kind of traffic your system can handle. So that's already there, basic checks and basic alert of if any resource is going to be consumed. So that system should be there. Again, the second thing which is very important for integrations is be aware of the API changes, right? Okay. So suppose HubSpot makes some changes into their API, and of course they will notify you, 1 month, 2 months back that okay, we are going to make this change and this is going to be live on some day, right?
Okay.
So you should be aware of that, all the API changes which is going to occur on any platform which is involved in your integration. If the changes occur and you do not prepare your system for that, of course there will be a outage, right? So suddenly something will stop working, and then you will realize, okay, this needs to be changed, and then there will be a downtime for that.
Okay. And so does HubSpot notify all of this? I mean, is there email? Okay, it does. Okay.
So there is a developers newsletter which will come up all the changes or whatever they are one of the best API documentations. So you can just check that whether what new is coming up and when something is going to be deprecated or when something will stop working. So you can just keep a track of that.
Okay. And let's assume that neither HubSpot nor the other tool is changing anything in the API, right? So if these two systems are not changing anything, so once an integration is developed, can it work forever without? And let's say we are not hitting those limits, etc. So can it work without looking at it and build it, forget it, or do you still need to do something?
Yeah. So there are three elements into it, right? Two systems and the middleware. If all three things are not hitting their upper limit, then I think there is no other chance that it will fail. It should start working. It should keep working. As you said, the computer is the most obedient, right, resource. So it will just keep working, right? And you don't think that there will be another issue that if all three systems are okay, then you just implement, deploy, and forget.
Okay, good. Again, I'm remembering some childhood memory, some bike ad. I don't remember which bike. They used to say, shut it, forget it. It's kind of like that, right? So if everything else is working fine, I can forget about it. It will work. Okay.
And that's the best thing about integrations, right? When you integrate two systems, there is the output in front of you every day. Like you will see the data, whether this data is matching to another system or not, right? And if there is some issues, you will just figure it out by your own, or the developer will follow the logs and they will figure it out that, okay, there is some issues in that. Otherwise, integrations output is always in front of you, right? If the system is working, you should get your data. And if it not, then you won't be able to, right?
Okay, makes sense. Good. I think we've covered the life cycle of an integration, from how and why to look for it, to how to make it work ongoing. So what, I mean, you've done so many. What is your let's say, what is your most difficult moment in this integration journey, or a difficult project, or anything?
Yeah, the Wine Direct is a nightmare for me.
Oh, okay. That's the one you mentioned earlier. Okay.
Yeah. We have also done some of the some of the trickiest one, some of the happiest one. So for example, when we did Shopify integration, it's a
Okay.
very simple but very tricky, right? So
But
if
Shopify
I
integration already exists in the
yeah,
market.
exactly. So that's why it was very tricky part. So Shopify, I mean, HubSpot provides Shopify integration by default, native integration, right? So you just connect to your Shopify, and then everything will, or every order will be created as a deal, and those things will start happening, right? What that integration does, that whenever someone will add to any cart, the cart will be updated as a deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Cart will be added as a deal in your
Right.
system, in your HubSpot, right?
Yeah.
But suppose I have added 5 elements in my cart, okay? And so 5 elements has been created as a deal in HubSpot.
Okay.
But I go ahead and then delete 2 elements from that.
Yeah.
Now that integration won't update your deal.
Oh.
So
the deal amount will stay for 5 products,
exactly,
while I'm
5
actually
products.
purchasing only 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a very basic thing, but it was like a client claimed that, okay, this is not working for us. Is there any solution? And then we just used Shopify notifications that, okay, whenever there is a card update, just notify me. And
Okay.
we got the notification, and our middleware will just update the deals.
Oh, so you had a middleware there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Smart. Okay. Yeah, some of the basic things, I mean, you would expect HubSpot to think of this, right? But
Yeah, of course.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, those things can happen, right? So that is probably where you said, the business case has to be, really good documented. I think at the
Yeah.
beginning you mentioned that. Makes sense now. Okay. Okay. I think I have, probably covered the journey of an integration, but I mean, we can open the questions. I mean, the now floor for, any audience questions. If you guys have any question with respect to an integration, or you've done or not, or thinking of doing, or anything, if there is any question. There's one question. What about Zapier? Are there limitations? Yeah. Uh, you think?
Of course, Zapier is again, that's a ETL platform, right? You can connect multiple systems through Zapier. But of course, Zapier is never created for any particular integration, any particular systems integration, right? So it has some limitations with it, which you will face when you will integrate any system. If it works with Zapier, it's perfectly all right to go ahead and do it, integrate with Zapier. So that's basically acts as a middleware and does the same thing, right? But for example, Zapier has very, for example, with HubSpot, Zapier has very fixed set of triggers and actions, right? And if your business requirement is, more of that, any other trigger which is not captured by Zapier, or any other action which is not captured by Zapier, then you need to create a middleware for yourself, because that will be not be covered. Also, most of the time, what happens that if another system is very popular, then Zapier will incorporate it. Otherwise, if your system is not that popular, or if you have native system, or if you have your own custom made solution, then that solution might not have a Jap on Zapier.
Okay, that could
So
also.
that can, yeah, that can also help.
Okay. Also, you just mentioned, I mean, going back by your previous point that the Shopify integration did not have a deal update option. So
Yeah,
Zapier could
yeah,
have
basic,
kinds of problem.
exactly.
Yeah.
The trigger cannot be captured, and because they capture 90% of the cases, which is like very genuine, and everyone is stressing that, and everyone is planning for that, right? So they will capture those. But if you have some specific requirements which is not being captured by those 90% cases, then you'll have to come up with your own.
Okay. Another question has come up, which is I have 7, 8 apps to be integrated with HubSpot. Should I think about building a Zapier like thing or do each integration separately? This is for
It
one account.
Yeah. So it will be very so HubSpot lets you create an app, right? An app can do anything on HubSpot, right?
Okay.
So what you can do that you can connect while creating an app, you need a middleware. That's for sure, because any portal will authorize that, and your middleware should be able to authorize those HubSpot portals. So the middleware needs to be there for an app. So if you are trying to connect 7 or 8 systems to HubSpot, it doesn't make sense to create an app for all the other systems, right? Your one system can handle all the requests from 7 or 8 apps and then talk to HubSpot, because the another system is like common, right? It's like one to many connections, right? So one system is common, then you can just have a middleware which will talk to all the other 8 platforms or 8 and then it will just connect all those systems to HubSpot in one app. So it will have some benefits, such as maintaining will be very easy because you have only one system, so you can just maintain. But in that case, there will be a drawback that if your system is down, all the 8 platforms are stop working.
Okay.
So you'll have to make sure of fail safe. It's very particular, right?
I don't know. So it has both sides, but yeah.
So middleware will be one.
Got it.
I think we have done this for a few of the clients where they had this kind of requirement that they want to connect a lot of systems to HubSpot, and we created one central app and gave all the functionality into that app.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, otherwise maintaining each app would become, difficult, especially when there is an API update or something like that. You will have to make an update.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just one catch that, yeah, if one goes down, everything goes down. Okay. Which is a big one, but yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah, there will be one middleware. I think that's what he means. Deepak. Okay, good. Yeah. What else? Another, any other question? Okay, I think we are good. Guess most of the questions or probably everything has been answered. Anyway, I mean, you guys would have got emails from us, or somewhere you would have found about the event. So if there are follow-up questions, you can always write to us, or you can even go on the on Nesfay's website or on Hug Twitter handle or LinkedIn page. You can always write write to us, ask more questions. That is obviously there. So yeah, I guess we're good for now. That I think that concludes the first first session probably on integrations. I think we will be doing more. Like I mentioned, this will be a basic one, and we'll get into more details, probably more more to do with technical stuff, so to say, because now we are seeing a lot of HubSpot developers trying to get on HubSpot. So yeah, I guess we will get into more technical stuff as we go along in our journey with HubSpot user groups. So that brings us to the close of this first session on integration, and the second hug session for the year. We will be back, I think, in September now with I don't know the topic yet, but yeah, I think somewhere in September we will be back again. And then obviously there will be one followed by inbound. Inbound is I think on 12 to 14th October. So there will be probably in November another hug event with updates from HubSpot and inbound and more maybe to wind up the year. So yeah, thank you, Dheeraj, of course, for answering all these questions. I think I also gained something today. I'm sure the audience did. So thank you so much, and yeah, everybody else, thank you so much for joining. Have a good day.
Welcome.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.